Hi, everybody. And my next wonderful guest is Deb Gutierrez. And Deb has a really fascinating business, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and tell us the name of the business and what it is she does. Go ahead, Deb.
Hi, thank you for having me. And I am the founder of Lyme Disease Awareness Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit. And it's a privilege to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. I have a tragic story with a very happy ending. With my 16-year-old daughter and my family went on a camping trip, and 10 days later, she was completely psychotic and hearing voices.
Oh my gosh. So,
Yes.
So is this how you started on this journey to do what you do?
That's right.
Oh, wow. So tell us more about that.
Well, my daughter was class president of her class and a straight A student, and after the camping trip, came back, and within 10 days, she was completely disabled, and we were asked to have her removed from school. We didn't know why she was hearing voices or why she had such terrible insomnia, and it led us on this rabbit hole of approximately 25 different doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and acupuncturists, and we went the Western route and the homeopathic route, and truly by God's grace, we finally found the answer about 3.5 months of her being home and being completely disabled. And it was through Amen Clinics in the Bay Area, and the doctor there clinically diagnosed her with Lyme disease. We got her blood work tested, and she definitely tested positive for Lyme and 2 co-infections. And we began treatment, and that took a whole year, and she was on 3 different antibiotics with 3 different probiotics in between.
Wow.
And in the long run, she recovered and regained her life. We were told by our HMO when she came in originally that she was schizophrenic and she would be on schizophrenia medication for the rest of her life, which is not true, because now, once the Lyme and the co-infections were cleared up, she is actually getting her master's degree in London right now, and she's 100% well.
That's an amazing story. So did anybody even think to ask you, gee, have you been camping? What have you done lately? What activities has she done? Did anybody not even ask that question and glom on to that possibility?
Not one person, not one doctor, not one physician, nobody, 25 different people, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars during those 12 weeks that she was undiagnosed, doctor after doctor visit, trying to get, because the insurance would not recognize that she had, anything other than schizophrenia. So we had to go outside of our HMO and pay out of pocket for other physicians to try and see her, other specialty people.
So did they find a tick bite somewhere eventually?
Never. Never.
No inflammation, no inflamed spot?
None. There was inflammation in the brain, so it could have been on her hairline somewhere that was not visible, possibly.
That is an amazing story. I've never heard that before. So tell me what the Lyme Disease Awareness Foundation does.
Well, I come from a small town in Gilroy, and I belong to a church that has over 1,200 members, and people began hearing about my story and what had happened to my daughter. And I started getting phone calls, and people kept asking me and saying that they had aunties or uncles or children with bipolar or ADHD, or I had one person's daughter had Lou Gehrig's disease, and it's just been nonstop communication, people asking me about my story, and it became overwhelming to repeat my story over and over because of this. My phone was ringing off the hook. So I decided to make a website writing out my story so I could refer people on one link and they could read my story without me having to repeat it. Then this triggered the idea to make a nonprofit to generate raising funds for people that are ill that cannot afford expensive Lyme disease testing because insurance does not pay for that. Normal HMO insurance does not pay for that. Lyme disease is a specialty, and I went through IGeneX laboratories in Palo Alto, and you have to pay out of pocket to get tested with the doctor and the physician visits and the lab work. It runs about $2,500 per person, and every single person that I've had tested has tested positive for Lyme disease and co-infection. So they've been misdiagnosed, just like my daughter was misdiagnosed.
Oh my gosh! And how many people have you worked with to do that?
I've worked with over 100 and some odd, and I've helped pay for several of those, and I've also helped guide those that could pay for their own testing, guide them along their route. And I'm grateful to help, almost 200 people.
That's amazing, because when we hike or we camp and you see pictures about ticks, you would think that it would be much more prevalent as far as the testing arena for doctors to look like that. Look at that.
It is. I wish it was. It isn't, because the laboratories use outdated testing methods, and IGeneX Laboratories in Palo Alto is the only lab that I use. They're the ones I use for my daughter, and they are pioneering straight through, bacterial infections and specialize only in Lyme disease testing. And they have people from Australia, from Spain, from all over the world, Federal Express blood vials over to their laboratory to get tested for Lyme and co-infections. So that is their specialty.
So if somebody gets Lyme disease, what are some of the co-infections that can follow that?
Well, there's Bartonella, Babesia. There's about a dozen different ones, but everyone needs to turn in a blood sample to really determine what they have. Everyone that I've helped, they all have different ones. No one has had the same one as my daughter.
Now, what is the prognosis for somebody who tests positive for Lyme disease?
Well, if you catch it early, it's very good at prognosis. If you catch it later, for instance, after 5 years, it's a much more difficult journey, and you kind of want to go through the homeopathic route along with the antibiotic route.
Okay, and are there homeopaths that will help you with that?
Definitely. And part of it would be some simple help would be something like helping the person sit in a hot jacuzzi tub, for instance, because Lyme bacteria dies after, a very high heated water insertion, because once the body's inserted, the Lyme cannot handle that kind of intense heat, and then the Lyme bacteria will die in the body. And then you develop a Herxheimer reaction, which is the neurotoxins of the bacteria die in the body, and it releases kind of a toxin that makes you feel really sick, like you have the flu. But
Right.
everyone has to go through the Herxheimer reaction to get well. Everyone.
Wow, this is really fascinating. I've just never had a conversation about Lyme disease. I study health and that type of thing, have my whole life, but just never really gotten into Lyme disease. So this has been really fascinating. Can you tell a personal story about, besides your daughter, a client or somebody who your foundation has helped? Just one story?
Sure. I have someone who was in a mental institution for over 20 plus years, got out. We had him tested for Lyme disease. He tested positive, and he was told for over 2 decades that he was schizophrenic, and he was not.
Oh my gosh. And so he was able to get medication to...
Yes, he's under treatment right now.
That's an amazing story. Oh my gosh, I'm blown away. Wow.
It's a true story. If you think about it, I don't know if you've heard any of the news, that celebrity Chris Christopherson, he was diagnosed with dementia and a type of Alzheimer's. He could not remember the lyrics to his music. He could not remember anything.
Yeah.
So they put him on all kinds of dementia medicine. Just imagine being on 4 or 6 or 8 different types of medicines that you don't even need, that aren't even helping you. Come to find out, he got tested for Lyme disease. He tested positive. He regained his memory back. He remembers all the lyrics of his songs, and he was completely misdiagnosed with dementia. He literally would have died with a dementia Alzheimer's diagnosis had he not been tested for Lyme disease.
That's amazing. I hate to wrap up this interview. It's really fascinating. So I want to make sure that people can get a hold of you and to contact you if they have questions or if they would like to make a donation. And also, if you have something that you would like to offer or an announcement you'd like to make.
Absolutely. The name of my foundation is called 4 words, Lyme Disease Awareness Foundation.org. And you're welcome to make an online donation. We really appreciate it. I have a team of 10 volunteers, including myself, and we're very passionate about fundraising and about testing people. I have over a 2-year waiting list, people that need testing that we don't have the funding for. So we just keep going forward, testing one person at a time. And I'm having a huge Christmas luncheon at Eagle Ridge Golf Club in Gilroy. It's December 11th, and my tickets are $50 a person. And I'd love to extend a 50% discount. So the ticket would be $25 for an amazing luncheon, great food, great fellowship, and I love giving the podium to people that have miraculous stories. So it's truly wonderful. We do this twice a year at Christmas and at Mother's Day, and I'd love to have any PHB members that love to enjoy great food and fellowship join us, and that's a 50% discount off the $25 opposed to the $50 price.
That is a great offer, and I hope people take you up on it, because this is really important. You think about so many people that could be diagnosed as mentally ill, and this is really something that's bacterial. It's an amazing thing. I'm really glad that you are able to share this with us. I think it's really important for people to know about, and I'd be happy to even talk to you offline about this if you're open to that. So,
absolutely.
Okay.
It would be my pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much, Deb. You have a great day.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.